welcome to Categories Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.categories.com. I am Jason J. Rock Houston. My special guest today is Toni Aleman, well-known guitar shredder around Los Angeles, but these days he's living in Las Vegas, and we're going to be talking to Toni about one of his latest projects, Renaissance Rock Orchestra. And I understand you've been involved with this for probably about 2 or 3 years. Is that correct, Toni?
Yeah, and I hate to be the guy that has to cut you off between the first sentence, but I actually still live in LA. I'm
okay.
Still an LA dude.
Okay,
I play
okay.
the Vegas thing, but yeah, I travel back and forth.
That's good. So you're one of those guys because Nashville these days and Vegas have kind of become two new kind of musical capitals where all the music guys are going.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be hit by that at some point. LA seems to be...
Yeah.
It's not what it used to be, which is very, very strange. It's a reality of
very sad too. Yeah.
Yeah, but honestly, man, I think anywhere where there's creativity and the way things are structured now with the modern music industry, everything being involved with the internet, pretty much if you got a voice and you have something to say, I pretty much believe that people will listen to it. You know what I mean? Like since the labels are no longer necessarily like the only quality control, what the music, what popular music is out there, or any music really. All it takes is a little bit of a drive, a little bit of a hard head to want to put your stuff out there.
Yeah, I gotta say you got quite the internet presence. I mean, I've been aware of you for a couple of years, obviously, Toni, and I was just, after we reached out to do this latest interview, I was on your Facebook page, and man, you promote the hell out of your stuff, and it's like, who's going to do a better job of promoting your stuff than you,
Yeah, and that's how it is, man. If you take a look at some of the most important people out there, like just not even music related, people that want to leave some kind of a name for themselves, man, you have to be. In a weird way, you have to be your biggest fan and your biggest critic, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Which is a struggle in its own self. I mean, like you're constantly trying to build yourself up, but also sort of tearing yourself down.
Yeah, well, that's very important to do. To not to have too big of an ego. I mean, there's this guitar player that he's got a bit of an internet presence. I don't know if you've ever heard of Maxwell Carlisle, but he was telling me that ever since he's been on YouTube, he started getting all of a sudden. All these people wanting him to endorse their products and stuff, and people checking up all his stuff on YouTube, and he says, all of a sudden, all this stuff that I'm involved in just taking off.
I believe he was in
Hellion,
Ann's band, right?
That's
right. It's funny because I vaguely remember him from just a small group of people. Obviously, the NAMM show guy talking about gear and all that. You always see those kind of guys going around doing their thing. He's definitely found some success in the YouTube market to the point where I've seen commercials. On my normal day-to-day YouTube programming. And then I'll see him on there, which is a good thing. You know what I mean? That's exposure. That's you putting yourself out there. That's paying for advertisement or whatever you have to do in order to get out there. But like I said, it's no longer centralized. Now it's definitely a broader
thing,
a broader group of people now able to put themselves up in front and center per se, which is really, really cool, man. Like it makes me feel pretty good, and it makes me feel happy about the people that are coming out nowadays. You know what I mean? Like the new 18-year-old guy. Because you think like, without an industry, something bad might happen. But no, I mean, honestly, I think the world's kind of better off without it.
Yeah.
There's just so many good bands out there that you probably wouldn't have heard of if it wasn't for the internet, or even as early as MySpace going into Facebook, which is now Instagram and TikTok and all the Instagram musicians that are out there.
Well, MySpace has kind of turned into like a virtual graveyard. It's kind of interesting. Like, I can't even find my old MySpace anymore. It's so funny, but I got friends on Facebook that I've known from that far back, like on MySpace, like you're saying, where a lot of people got their start, and it's kind of interesting to see what it's turned into. But talking a little bit about how I kind of got turned on to you, Toni, I'm sure you know a story, which is a couple years back when you first started playing in Juan Crocier's solo band, which goes by the name of Rats Juan Crocier. The drummer, Pete Holmes, I was friends with him on Facebook, and I'd interviewed him initially first, and he'd invited me to come down to one of the shows you had here in LA, and I was pretty impressed with what you guys were doing. Now, Talk about, first of all, I was curious, were you much of a Rat fan, I'm assuming? And what's it like to play those Warren DeMartini licks?
You know, I will say I am definitely 100% a Rat fan.
Yeah.
Nerdy enough, man, I used to have posters of them up on my wall. It was Robin and Warren.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was definitely a trip being involved with Juan, and especially during the time period where things were particularly interesting, given all the different renditions of the type of music that's out there. Various members trying to all do their thing at the same time, which... Once again, I just seen that. I just saw it as a opportunity to try to do something meaningful. Hopefully.
Yeah.
But no, man, I love all those guitar parts, man. I specifically love Nobody Rides for Free.
Oh yeah, great one.
Guitar work, just wonderful smoking guitar solo, but very melodic and pretty. It was definitely a guilty pleasure to work on all that stuff and to sit there and get to have to learn it. Obviously get paid for it and be a musician and be some kind of a hired gun per se. But I definitely appreciate that catalog. I appreciate.
One thing I'll say about the Rat catalog, those guys were great songwriters. They got the songs, which any band really kind of needs,
Yeah, man, they have it all, and I definitely put them up there in the vein of like Van Halen and those kind of bands, like songs that you could just recognize. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter how long it's been. I mean, it's been like 40 plus years at this point.
Oh yeah, Out of Cellar's like 40 plus years or something like that. Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I was a fan. I still am a Rat fan to this day. But the thing, and I remember what you're talking about, having posters up, in your room and stuff. And we all did. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. But like Shame. That's a cool solo. I always love that. Loving You, The Dirty Job. Not just the classic stuff, but what I loved about seeing you play with Juan. It was a tight band, and we all love, hearing Stephen Piercy's voice, but I got to give Juan credit. We all known him as a bass player for all these years. He's a pretty decent lead singer.
He is. He's got a really good voice, and surprisingly, like before playing with Juan, I really wasn't much of a singer or even a backup singer per se. But working with him, we were kind of put through the ringer a little bit. He definitely knows his stuff, and so he was able to kind of help me out with grooming my voice a little bit to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because like where he usually does all like the...
That's what I was going to say. In Rat, he's like the background vocal sound.
Yeah, he's the Michael Anthony of the band.
Rat, yeah.
and like I said, he's actually got a really nice voice, and it's very... it's just very smooth compared to what Steven's normally doing, so it fits and blends really well, right? You have like a cleaner, smoother, maybe alto, I think is where his range is at, and then Steven has just like his personality, the voice, that deep, dark, growly kind of thing. I love it.
I will say, of all the guys in Rat, I think other than Steven and Warren, I think Juan's definitely. That's why I didn't really have a problem with what you guys were doing, because we knew it wasn't Rat, we knew what it was. Just Juan going, playing these songs that he helped, write, and that's what it was. And so I think if anybody had a right to go out there and, play these songs that he played a role in writing, he definitely does. Even more so than the drummer, in my view.
Yeah, well, it's funny because he definitely had a very heavy vision with a lot of this stuff, man. And a lot of it has to do with his instrumentation, like being a bass player. There's a lot of groove and pocket. There's a lot of feel with that. Which I sort of envy, because being a guitar player, we're kind of stuck in the notes from time to time. But definitely, man, there's a groove and a vibe to that, and it's all danceable. And obviously, if you've ever watched Juan, he's definitely
the way he throws his bass around. In fact, he's known for that.
It's 100% or nothing with that guy, and I love that about him, because like that's the kind of stuff that I think makes bona fide rock stars in our world, you know what I mean? Like the guys that really believe in what they're doing. He's one of those dudes. I imagine same with Warren and all those cats. Like they have an idea of what they wanted to be, and that's what they are. And that's just a wonderful thing to see.
And so, I was curious if, what did you think about Pete Holmes going on to become the drummer for Rat? And I was curious if you'd ever gone to see, Juan and Pete play in Rat.
I have yet to go see them. It just didn't work out.
Because you're so busy yourself all the time, yeah.
Yeah, because I believe when they were out, I had just started doing the vinyl thing, so I was actually doing a record. This would have been like 2017, 18.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
Because I think my last gig with Juan would have been like September of 2017.
Yeah. And when we were prepping for the interview, talking back and forth, you were telling me that you guys still have plans to go and make a record. Is that correct?
Well, there's some kind of music being written.
Okay.
I know Juan and I have gone back and forth and talked about it, and I wouldn't say it's super premature to talk about it. It's been a couple of years now.
Yeah, I got you. But
conversation.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I understand that Juan's got his Pro Tools rig set up, and he's been going through various forms of versions of different songs through his catalog as a writer. Because believe it or not, man, I mean,
yeah.
You would think that of all these records that are written with Rat, I mean, there's so many records, so many songs, but there's so many songs that were never heard.
Yeah, unreleased stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and some things which I imagine are probably unrelated, and other things that just happen to have like a thematic little purity to them that kind of fits in any situation. But I would like to hope that stuff will make the light of day, hopefully within the next year or so.
Yeah, one can hope. And so that's pretty interesting. So so what was the point? Talk about now Renaissance Rock Orchestra. How did you get involved with that? I mean, was it just a matter of Gregg Foxx reaching out to you, or?
Oh, you know what? It's so weird, man. Life is a funny thing, man.
Yeah.
So in 2015, 2016, somewhere around there, I was in between tours with doing the Juan thing, and I was playing in another band at the time. I was doing a cruise. It was called the Axis and Anchors.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like this 1 week cruise, and Zach Wild, Black Label Society, and Yngwie, and all these guitar players are part of this cruise.
Okay. Wow.
And I happened to be playing on it with some singer-songwriter, for lack of better words. And I got acquainted with the Yngwie band.
Oh, wow.
Right? Granted, Yngwie wouldn't come out of his room for whatever reason. He played 2 or 3 times, and he was just MIA. So his band happened to be super cool dudes.
Yeah.
And so, I ended up befriending the bassist Ralph Chiavolino at the time.
Yeah.
And so me and him just hung out and hit it off, and we got to jamming on the cruise, and there was this there was a late night after hours artist jam. It was just a fun jam that started, but pretty much every single night after that, it just became a culture thing on the boat. If you were in one of the bands and you were playing, you would go down there and cut your teeth at night, because it was super fun, man. Guys like Bumblefoot. I think Marty Friedman came down and did a song.
Oh, wow.
But I just remember, since Yngwie wouldn't come out, and I just happened to be particularly a fan of that particular catalog, I got to play the Yngwie material with the guys in Yngwie.
Oh, how cool is that? Wow.
That was super fucking fun, and still, to me, one of those glory moments that are lost in history, because nobody filmed that. It was just anywhere from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m.
Oh, wow.
And there's just musicians up there just doing their thing, just having a really good time. Which is probably the best time to do music, believe it or not. I mean, it's great doing stuff in front of people, but every now and then when you experiment with musicians, something nice happens. And so, giving you that story, so after the cruise, about a year or so later, obviously me and Ralph had talked and stuff, and so he mentioned he was living in Vegas at the time, and he was working with Gregg. And so that's how I found out about that orchestra, and I found out about Michael Romeo and all these different cats that were playing in that band. So he just sort of pushed me in the right direction.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Renaissance Rock Orchestra is something that I've just recently kind of discovered myself. I mean, you guys were getting ready to do this big show in Vegas, which you did about a month or so ago, I think, and I started seeing all this stuff, and I was checking it out. I went onto YouTube, and I was checking out all this music and video, and I thought, wow, this really got kind of a great original kind of big rock sound. A lot of the stuff reminds me of Queen, but what I dig about it is, Gregg was explaining when you guys do the show in Vegas, you play a lot of those rock classic songs we all know and love, but you've got your own, the band's got their own original material as well, and it's just as good as the classic stuff you're playing.
Yeah, I mean, I hope.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope anything like that works. Although I can't necessarily take too much credit in that aspect.
Yeah.
Like I do my guitar work.
Yeah, yeah.
Greg is the guy running that band.
The creator, the composer.
The brains,
yeah.
the brawn, the creative aspect of it. Like he's a really talented person, and it's great being in a project like this, man. With the kind of guys that we're playing, everybody's top notch. You know, like
that's the thing. I mean, it reminds me of a modern day Whitesnake. I mean, because you got different guys coming in and doing different things, but that I think for him and the other people involved in the band keeps it fresh.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. I mean, well, because it's kind of weird because like I will say the classic rock stuff has really been more of a recent addition in my perspective. Like he's written a lot of really great music.
Oh yeah.
And to me, it's the music that he wrote that really got me turned on to this, because it was like, if you listen, I think it's the second record, like J.S. Rock.
Yeah.
There's Alexander Symphony. There's what's the name of this song? Sorry, I'm terrible with names of songs. Like even the Rat stuff, dude. Like you'll see me on set list write urine, love. Like, urine.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's just because like I just have this like totally ADD like thing about song titles. Like I have to learn a set, play it that way. And sometimes I'll be like, what's the name of that song?
But I can relate to what you're saying, because like I said, I accidentally discovered Renaissance Rock Orchestra myself through Facebook and stuff, and I started checking all of the different songs there. And one thing that kind of really stood out to me about the songs he writes is like he's a great storyteller as far as, the lyrics got meaning and depth to each of these songs. And like there was one song, To Be With You, and then I told him, that song, that I was really digging that song, Greg, and it really, I could tell like it's almost like it's a page torn out of your life. And he said, funny thing is, I wrote that song about a girl, a girlfriend I had that was very close to. She died of cancer, and he said it really affected him, of course. But just listening to the song, you could kind of feel that,
Yeah. Oh, you know what? The song, and I don't mean to cut you off. Yeah. It just came to me. The song is called "The Maker of Dreams."
Okay. Wow.
And it's off of "In Times of Old" is the name of the record.
Yeah.
And it's the Tony Harnell song. Tony sings on it, and not to mention, I mean, everybody who sings on these songs are absolutely like just amazing singers.
Mark Bowles, Robin McCauley.
Yeah. And playing with Robin is a whole other thing too. Like he's just such a great singer. Mark is an amazing vocalist. It's crazy to see those guys do their stuff night after night and just be solid for the better part of 30 years. That's insane, man. Like
I hear you.
Kudos to them.
I mean, Robin McCauley, he's one of those guys. He played with Michael Schenker. He's done a ton of other projects that, I'm always seeing some new release that he's got. So, top-notch players, like you said. And I got to tell you, Tony, your shredding, or your guitar playing, I should say, really shines on the stuff you play on. I mean, the first song I heard that you played on that really kind of, before I knew you were actually a guitar player on it, it kind of caught my attention, the playing. Circus Life. Talk a little bit about that, and did you kind of write the solo for that, or did Gregg already have it written?
No, it's funny. So when I got the tune, there was definite rhythm figures in that section for the solo, because like the whole song is just like, the tune.
Yeah.
Everything's very movie and it has a nice like pace to it.
Yeah.
And then you get to the solo section and you basically get this like rhythm section figure. It's a very specific backing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which when you think of writing over just like something that's like kind of like consistent and
it kind of reminds me of like I don't know, like a big Queen type song, and then there's elements like if you watch the video, almost like a psychotic carnival like Joker type theme.
Yeah, well, so that solo in particular, I remember just like hearing it, and I couldn't quite work anything like, because as a guitar player, you kind of want to work out your normal things, and sometimes it doesn't quite work, and in particular, I think this song was one of those catalysts for that.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking a little bit outside of my instrument, and started kind of thinking of all the different things that it called to me per se. Like, like to me, I was thinking, man, like I could hear Brian May playing over this.
Exactly.
That's what he would do.
Yeah.
And so I remember after first opening up this session, I just kind of like took a drive and like just kind of sort of like YouTube some like Queen. and I was hearing just a couple different Queen solos. I can't remember the name of the song.
Yeah.
But there's a song that Brian May does where he harmonized like a big band jazz kind of group or something like that. Okay. It was like a small big band rhythm section.
Yeah.
And so he harmonized things as like you would write guitar parts that are more for like a clarinet or like something flute or And so what I ended up doing is I wrote a 16-part guitar harmony just on the fly, and it was kind of one of those like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, worst comes to worst, he just says no, he hates it, and that's sort of over.
I got to compliment you because the solo part you're playing is really kind of, I dare say, hypnotic. You know, it gets your attention. You just kind of, it's one of those things that, you know, kind of makes people pay attention to the song, and you don't really, get tired of it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I wrote it, I just kind of, like, there was different things that I wanted to do, and I figured, well, why don't I just write all the parts that I want to hear, and then harmonize all of them, which I did in stereo, so, like, I'd have to, like, perform something on the left side, perform it again on the right side, and then harmonize it in between. So, like, I don't know if you're too familiar with any, like, audio recording or panning, but you would write outward, inward from, like, the speaker spectrum of, like, left to right, so that way you're slowly filling up the spectrum until you get to the center, and then that's where you would kind of sort of do your bread and butter. Mm-hmm. So that's where, like, the true, like, solo sits, but everything beneath that is, like, a bed of guitar harmonies that are slightly similar but slightly different than the original part. And see,
that's what makes this cool. Like, all this music you guys have out, I mean, like you just released I think 5-song EP, and each song on there sounds drastically different. And the cool thing about it to me, all 5 songs are like standout tracks. They all, I think, could be released as a single, if you know what I mean. They're that good. And each song really is different than the previous, which I think keeps it fresh for anybody listening to it. And I mean, even though it's only 5 songs, it's because some of the songs are a little long, you know. It seems like you're listening to a full album.
Yeah, no, definitely. Everything that was worked on that record, and at the time, I really didn't know it was going to be 5 songs. But now,
but I'm just saying,
it really does make sense as a record. It is a compilation of different pieces that are all sort of like pushed at the same theme, more or less.
And the reason I say that, you know, is typically like a lot of bands these days, they will release like a 3 or 4 song EP, and then my only complaint usually is like it leaves me wanting more. Where I didn't necessarily have that feeling. I felt like I got a full album, even though it is only 5 tunes. And I think because each track is kind of epic, if you know what I mean, it's got that big kind of big rock Queen sound to it.
Yeah, they're not short songs per se. Like they definitely carry a little bit of weight on their own. And obviously, like when you put them together, they do tell a whole story about things that have happened over the past couple of years. Obviously, I don't know. When I was working on this, I mean, this was like like the hot stuff of COVID. You know what I mean? Like,
in fact, Song of Hope, which is the current single, to me, that's a great song, especially for this time, because it's to me, if I don't know if this is what the song's about, but it's talking to me in the sense that kind of like what everybody's been going through, you know, all these lockdowns and COVID and all this. You know, instead of kind of you turn on the news every day and you're being kind of brought down. Things are getting worse and worse. Life's never going to be. You listen to that song, and it's exactly what it says. It's kind of giving you hope, or you know, maybe there is hope for the future.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm kind of on the side of positivity, no matter what.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I think someone like Gregg is definitely that kind of person, man. Like he's just a definite good guy. You know, like the music he writes just reflects who he is, I think, as a person. And I think when you really are, in my opinion, like I said, who knows what is at this point? I mean, society in the world is just so like saturated with ideas and people and opinions that it's almost hard to tell really what really does matter here. In my opinion, it does matter to be a good person, and it does matter to try to carry a positive message to whatever it is that you do, because I think that's what kind of lifts everybody else up and kind of puts you in a maybe in a headspace or in a consideration that is more successful than not.
Well, as an entertainer, performer, I'm sure you've experienced it yourself. But that I've always believed, you know, music is a great way to kind of unite and bring people together.
It is, is, man, and who knows exactly what part of it is that, because like people used to think, oh, metal's bad for you, and apparently no, everybody who listens to that, it's like they get their steam out. They
Aggression.
Concerts, and they're functional people. They're not brain dead idiots. They're highly intellectual individuals, man. You'd be surprised the type of people that you would meet at a rock or metal show.
I mean, people may be surprised to learn like Gene Simmons used to be a teacher before he was ever a rock god.
Yeah, that's so crazy. But to its own, like I said, I mean, music definitely has beneficial aspects to itself, and your ability to calm down, de-stress, clear your mind, and possibly heal from the meditative nature of just what music is, which is frequency, harmony, space, and time. That whole thing. It's kind of weird how you end up thinking about it down the road, because it is something that, for me, it's part of my life. Like it's everything that I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like this has got to be something to it, which obviously I'm sure all the science community has done its research and all that, which I wish I could cite a little bit more of that. But,
well, I'd much rather hear that than, I remember 90s when the grunge explosion happened. My only complaint with, that type of music was having these, guys write songs about how depressed they were all the time. I'm like, I want to be brought up.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, when you think about it, it's like how many songs are written about heartbreak or being in love?
That's true. That's true.
The general aspect of being a human in like this whole environment, which is this
can't be happy all the time. I guess that is true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I just ultimately think that music is like the message that you have to speak of at a time when you have something to say, or something's bothering you, or something's making you feel joyous or whatever. It really is just the truer message of humanity.
And
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whatever that message is.
And the interesting thing in following you, Tony, the last couple of years is it's obvious as a musician, as a guitar player, you can do very different types of music. I mean, you start playing, this rap music with Juan, and you've done other things since then. This Renaissance Rock Orchestra is very different from that. I mean, the other thing is Renaissance Rock Orchestra, it kind of has a Deep Purple feel to some of it to me because of the, keyboards is kind of a central point. I remember, for years hearing people talk about keyboards suck, they don't belong in rock music, but this is like Deep Purple, and one of those bands that kind of proves that not to be true.
No, dude, keyboards definitely belong in rock music. Like I've always been a fan of it. Bands like Whitesnake, Deep
Boston,
Purple,
even
Rainbow, Johnny James Dio, and like the Dio band.
Oh yeah.
And I'm drawing a blank. Dream Theater is like a band that, come on, dude. Like, how can you not have a keyboard in that? The band Rush, which is just.
When you think of what John Lord did with that Hammond organ and Deep Purple, I mean, he's probably the first guy to ever really create that sound.
Yeah. No, and like I said, man, it just belongs, man. When you think of like some of the genres that some of those bands might have pulled from, like obviously classical music, like organs and like the old Baroque era.
Well, if you know anything about Ritchie Blackmore, even, I mean, he was influenced by a lot of that neoclassical stuff,
Yeah, definitely one of the forerunners for that style of music, man. Going into like the whole Yngwie thing, like. It's just, to me, it's just a very attractive instrument to hear guitar and keyboard together. Like I will just say I'm a fan of it. Like even in, I guess, Violacin, which I think we've talked about.
Yeah, we're going to get into that next a little bit. Yeah, but
man, you'll hear keyboards and all that stuff, and it just sounds good, man. It creates a texture that's just meant to be, man. Something about like strings and piano on a stage, maybe for the past 300, 400, 500 years.
And so that's interesting, and so Gregg was also telling me that now they've got, I think, 3 CDs that they've released. Do you appear on all 3 CDs, or?
I do not. I came in before the third one was released. There's the first, I forget the name of it, and then there's the In Times of Old, which is the CD that I particularly like. It's got a bunch of really great guitar players on it, great guitar work, great songwriting. And then finally, it would be Song of Hope, which I was fortunate enough to write some really cool, tasty guitar parts, as I'd like to think.
How cool! How cool is that? And before we wrap up with Renaissance Rock Orchestra, I wanted to ask you. So I know the latest thing you guys did, the big Vegas show. How many shows did you do in Vegas this last time, and what are the plans to do that in the future?
So we actually only did the one show with that band. I ended up going out and doing a couple like corporate things after that.
Okay.
Corporate music for musicians. But yeah, as far as that show, I believe they have scheduled some other performances that are supposed to be happening in the near future. I'm not exactly sure when that's supposed to happen. I would like to think hopefully it will happen before the end of the year. Hopefully super soon.
And you definitely be part of it, or like how is this kind of up to Gregg? Does he kind of put a call like, are you available, or?
I will say in this interview I'm totally going to be a part of it.
Good. Yeah.
Gregg will hear it. He'll be like, "What?"
Yeah.
No, I mean, I imagine for sure, man. Chris, I think is the dude, or Christian Brady is the other guitar player who does most of the classic rock.
I was going to ask you about him because I see he plays on the new EP too, and he was involved in that live show. What's it like playing with him, and how do you guys go about deciding who's going to play what? Like, do you do most of the leads, or?
So I think the best way to like split it up, and this is something I kind of thought about early on, which I think we just all kind of sort of in consensus kind of agreed with, which is for the most part I've always been more of a neoclassical kind of guy.
Okay.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So I would like to take care of all the stuff that is within the vein of the fast, intricate, neoclassic-y kind of stuff. That's just my cup of tea, man. Like I love listening to Pink Floyd, and I love listening to Led Zeppelin.
Wow.
But for me, like I just like listening to it. It's not really my go-to to like want to grab
I hear you. Yeah.
SG and do that whole thing. But I know Chris happens to be really good at it, and he's got his rig dialed in for exactly that, and it's amazing hearing it. Like, it just sounds like the record, and I'm like, I just know that he's the guy to do that. Like if I ever needed a Jimmy Page, like, that's Chris.
And now you enjoy obviously playing with him, so I was curious, like, if given a preference, do you prefer playing in a band where you're like the only guitar player, or do you like being like in a 2-guitar band?
I like both.
Okay.
I can't really say one or the other. Like obviously doing the Juan thing, I got to do all the Warren stuff.
Yeah, of course.
The other guitar player was doing all the Robin, and everything split up perfectly. I think in this rock orchestra thing, the same thing. Like there's songs where I feel I would rather just dig in and play rhythm, you know what I mean, than like just sit on it, because I rarely get to do that, you know what I mean, in other bands. And so it is nice to have that opportunity to just kind of really enjoy what's happening, opposed to being, and I guess the way I say it, it's like in some of these bands, and just being completely brutally honest with it, like a song like Jazz Rock, there's no time to breathe in that song. It's like you're playing, and you're 100% into it, and it's like note after note after note.
Yeah.
You're hoping to just get to the end of the laundry list of notes that you have to play. It's you know what I mean? Like it's a million notes a night kind of situation. I guess when you do what I do, like thinking about it, I think most of the bands I've done, I play a shit ton of notes. Yeah.
I mean, you're one of those guys. I think most people will describe you as a shredder, but apparently you can do much more than just shred.
Yeah, no, and like I said, there are situations where I enjoy doing the not shredding, but like I said, in the case of some of the material in the rock orchestra, there are many times where I will have to like just sit there and process what's happening, because like it's what I mean, it's that style of music. And so it is nice to have the contrast of like having to like sit back on a song like Time by Pink Floyd, like that's a cool song. It's super chill. It is a vibe, and it's a wonderful vibe to give people, but then again, you'll eventually have to call me in to do the shredding again.
And I think part of that too has got to be like, if you think about it, really, there's not another band like Pink Floyd that sounds like that, and there may be that's the reason why,
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's not to say that there aren't bands that do exactly that, where they pretty much just all night, and which is fine. Like I just like
different types of music. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, I've done my fair share of studying, and obviously I'm a student of music for the rest of my life. So I do enjoy playing jazz. I do enjoy playing like fusion and blues and all these other things. Like it's nice, man. Music is a spectrum. It's not like here you are, this is what you are, and that's it.
Yeah. You don't want to be put in a box, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a product of the music industry as it used to be, which was like, this guy can only do that and that's it. If you don't do that, you're kind of screwed. And nowadays you're finding musicians that are doing everything
and
because they can, because they're not stuck into that, like, I have to be a Grammy Award winner, so I have to play exactly that kind of music. You can venture out and you could do a couple different things, and I think that might, like I said, everyone's got their own journey, and in my particular journey as a musician, I just kind of feel like I want to be able to enjoy all these different pieces of the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine, like, when you get offered to do, you have a Wands thing, and it's like, it's fun to learn all those rap tunes and stuff, and as great as that is, like you said, it's a great opportunity, but then to get involved in something like Renaissance Rock Orchestra, where you can actually, you're not just part of the live band, but you get to kind of go in the studio, you're part of creating the music, like even Circus Life we talked about, you know, you get to come up with that awesome solo. That's a Toni Aleman solo, if you know what I mean. That's your baby, your creation. That's got to be a great feeling to be part of that.
Yeah, man, and like I said, it's the vessel of creativity, which is that particular group of people involving you and taking your mind, or a part of it, and putting that together. That's what ends up, in my opinion, getting a better result out of everything. Sorry, my words.
Your words are very good. I mean, I'll tell you, you're very well spoken, believe it or not.
Yeah, every now and then I get like that brain fart. I'm like,
we all do. We all do.
No, but ultimately, man, like I said, it's I guess you could have like a cheeseburger every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's the way I think about it. It's like, it's nice, but I like
variety. Yeah, exactly. And
I really do like variety. And once again, it all ends up being part of the same machine.
Same rock and roll.
Same fingers, same guitars and everything. It's just a different perspective and angle of the world that we live in. So
you call it the rock and roll salad, if you will. But yeah, but you know, so the last thing I want to ask you about Renaissance Rock Orchestra. So you played on these great CDs and helped create some of the songs. What was it like, you know, when you guys did the Vegas show, to kind of take it to the stage? And because, like I said, it's one thing to listen to the CD, but I imagine that's like a big rock show. That's what it seemed like to me, just looking at those videos and those pictures you guys posted.
You know, it's very interesting because, like, I mean, that list of songs that we did, and I don't know if you like saw that set list, or like if there's anything like that anywhere on the internet. I wouldn't know. I know what I played. And I know there was like some video of it streamed somewhere. But that set list was just so nice to play, and the audience just got it, and you could just tell everybody was just like in that groove. You know what I mean? Like. Like I what was it? I think I played "Dream On."
Oh wow!
Like for like the first real time in my life. Like, I mean, because that's a particularly just well written song.
So who sang that? Like Mark Bowles?
Mark sang that, yeah. And he killed it.
Wow!
He killed it, man.
Wow! Yeah.
But there's something about those type of songs, man. Like if it's not Aerosmith, it doesn't really matter.
Well, in a word, and I think this is very fitting for what Renaissance Rock Orchestra is doing. I would describe it as epic, you know?
Yeah, there's no other real word. I mean, that is a rock classic, like rock anthem.
Yeah.
The songs that we did are all rock anthems, dude.
I mean, people say that's a ballad, but I dare say it's a rock ballad because it's got a little bit of a kick to it, you know?
Yeah, no, there definitely is, but it was just strange because, like, so obviously everybody like listens to Joe Perry's guitar part.
Yeah.
Whenever they hear that song, but when you're like the other guy, you're always like, what the fuck is it in the background? And so like after discussing the part with a couple different people and some of the guys in the band, I finally came across a CD that actually has the part present, like on the right side of the speaker where it actually should be.
Okay.
And it's one of those like 1970 something like what do you call bootleg recordings?
Okay. Yeah.
And dude, that second guitar part, it's like a jazz guitar part. It's like all these wonderful harmonies that you would just never hear in another rock song.
I bet, yeah.
And I took the joy of learning that, dude. It was actually really wonderful to play that.
I bet.
Because it sounds so good, and you never hear that. Like I've never gotten to see Aerosmith live. But even when I watch those YouTube videos, like all the rock concerts, like you never hear that second part. But man, it's such a nice thing to hear, like just these weird
kind of really bring it to life, literally on stage.
And it does, man. And like I said, it's your audience is kind of like the best judge of whether it worked or not. And man, it's just nice when you look out to the audience and everyone's just kind of sort of like hypnotized.
Yeah, and from I interviewed Gregg about this, and he was telling me that this was supposed to really kind of launch pre-COVID, and it got shut down, unfortunately. And so he says, he says, it's kind of taken off now, and he's like, people are really interested in, doing more shows.
Yeah, well, definitely. Like I said, man, I do look forward to being back in Vegas very soon. Like I said, I don't know exactly how soon it will be.
But yeah.
But my fingers are crossed. I will be back by the end of the year, and it should be fine. Like, it should be a good time. And like I said, anybody that's a fan of what rock music is.
I think, what you guys could do, too, is, kind of remind, because this kind of reminds me, too, of Trans-Siberian Orchestra. It'd be great if you guys came up like a great rock and, like, Christmas show.
Oh, dude, yeah. Well, see, I will say, man, as much as I like Trans-Siberian Orchestra, like my pet peeve about it, and maybe it's because I'm like a Halloween person.
There you go. That
Right. I don't know how Christmas is just so like Christmas. It's so obviously Christmas. It's like.
Yeah. On that note, I
just don't want to be in a band that does that.
Yeah. On that note, I've heard, believe it or not, the rumor on the street is David Coverdale's thinking of doing a Whitesnake Christmas album.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
More power to him. I mean, I appreciate that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just can't.
It's not for you. Hey, I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then when you stop and think about Trans-Siberian, just on a not really even entertainment value, but like just on a business value, that they make as much money they do each year, like just around Christmas time, and that is their time of the year when they go out and do their shows.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just makes sense to have something structured in that way. I mean, their business model for that band is a wonderful thing. More power to them for the next who knows how long. As long as Christmas exists, I think they should be fine.
Yeah. Now, Tony, before we wrap this up, you were telling me, tell the people listening to this about your other project you're involved. You said you just released an album on Cleopatra Records. So I enjoyed watching the video. To people, I'll tell them I would best describe it as, I don't know if this is a good description, horror rock.
That seems to be the label we've been given. Horror rock.
I don't know what else to say. Yeah.
And it's funny. I think if you talk to the other dudes, they'll give you a whole different runaround of how they think of this band. But to me, man, I just seem to just have the. Like when I think of this band, it's a 4-piece band. It's 4 dudes.
So what's the name of the band again?
The band is called Vile a Sin.
Okay, Vile a Sin. And the cool thing about the video, I've seen the video you post on your Facebook page. I think it's the single you guys have out, but in any event, it's a cool looking video. And just if you just listen to the song for what it is, great metal. It's definitely a metal band. But like when you hear a band for the first time, you often think, oh, this reminds me of Metallica or whatever. And to me, that's the greatest compliment I can give you. It sounds like nothing I've heard before. The band has a real original sound going.
Dude, thank you. That's really nice to hear. When I joined that band, it was definitely something different. It was so different that it just made me want to do it. Like there's so many different bands that I've been offered to do, and
and you do
to blend in together.
And I'm assuming you did join in time to play on the record, right?
Yes, I did. So it was like 2017, I think is what I mentioned earlier.
Okay,
I just got done. Well, I wouldn't say done. We just got done performing with Juan's band.
Yeah.
And it was starting to get close to like Halloween time. Once again, my favorite time of the year.
Wow.
And so one of my old buddies who was in the band Mandy Lion / World War III.
Oh wow, I remember. Yeah. Okay.
So I was in that band for about 5 or 6 years or so. I think 5.
Now, were you in with World War III when Jimmy Vane and Vinny Appice were playing with them?
I have played with both of them in that band. They weren't necessarily the guys at the time, but they became the guys.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I played with Jimmy Bain, and I got to know him really well through that band. And
wow.
Vinny, I never really got to know him too well, but I did get to play with him a few times, which is really nice.
So like, I mean, that must have kind of been like when you heard about Jimmy Bain's passing, that had kind of just hit you right there. I mean, especially when you hear of the way he died on that cruise.
Yeah, dude, that sucked. I remember exactly where I was when that happened. I was playing at the, what's it called, the Hard Rock Cafe in Las Vegas.
Wow.
It was like day 5 of the Gabby Ray tour.
Okay, wow.
And Wendy Dio, of all people, told me that.
Oh,
because
wow.
she was managing that band at the time.
Oh, wow.
And so I found out from her. And I was like, dude, that sucks.
And what's she like to work with? She sounds like a super cool lady.
She was super nice to me, man. Like she especially on the cruise. I remember she bought me like cocktails and hung out. And I got to introduce Kathy Rhodes to her.
Oh, wow.
They had never met, and I guess the Randy Rhodes Remembered thing was on the cruise, and I just remember Kathy, and I was like, hey, did you ever meet Wendy? You guys should like talk.
Have you had a chance to see the new book about Ronnie that just came out?
I have not, you know.
It's a great book.
Sadly, I haven't had a chance to.
So busy. Now, you told me you've been busy building your studio or updating it.
Oh, yes, I have.
Okay, so in regards to the Vial of Sin CD, like, where's the best place for people if they want to purchase that to go?
Oh, so Vial of Sin, last I checked, we are distributed by Cleopatra Records, and all of their what do you call them?
Distribution?
No, there's a name for it. I'm sorry, I'm pulling out of Spanish right now. I do the Spanish-English thing, and sometimes like I don't know either language.
Oh, wow, okay.
But anyways, you can get it from the Cleopatra Records website, which is cleopatrarecords.com.
Yeah, okay.
I imagine, should I you know what, I'm sitting in front of a computer. I should just do this really quick. Cleopatra Records. CleoRex.com. That's what it is. My bad.
Okay, well, you got it for us, so that's great. So you were talking about sorry,
and then you can also get it on Amazon, Spotify, pretty much any online distributor. I believe Target has it.
And so what's going on with that band? You got the CD out, but how long has the CD been out?
So the CD we released 2019, I believe summer of, and then COVID happened, so 2020 didn't exist.
Yeah.
And so now we're 2021. We just released a new single, which came out, I believe, June.
Okay.
And that's Taste the Blood, which is the new
video
track, which I imagine will be part of the new record.
Yeah, I'll post that on our site so people can check it out. But so the plan is you guys are still working that record that came out in 2019, and
oh no, that one's done. Yeah, that's actually called Blood Feed, and that's been released. It's online. You can get the whole thing. We're actually working on a second, which once again we released a new single, which will be part of, I imagine, the second record.
Okay.
And we're just in the middle of working that. I updated my studio, which is what you mentioned. Like I just recently got like Cubase and all that.
Wow.
And so I track all my stuff here.
Cool. I love that about you.
Yeah.
And so you were talking about Spanish. So are you originally from Spain or?
No, I'm actually. I was born here. It's just my family is from El Salvador.
So on that note, I was curious. Like, was Spanish your first language? You know, growing up because of your family, or did you have to learn English?
Spanish was the first language I learned, and then like in grade school I had to learn English a little bit better. Like I started learning both, but like school actually helped that.
You know, it's amazing to hear you say that because I tell you, Tony, I would not have known otherwise if you had not mentioned that because you speak very well English. So, you know, great for you. You know, good job.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, like I said, over time it doesn't really.
You don't even seem to have.
It's just that every now and then, like you'll tend to forget a word in one language.
Yeah. Makes sense.
To the other one.
Makes sense. And like you said, we all get brain farts. Now, before I let you go, I'd like to ask, like, how old were you when you first started playing, or you know, what was your inspiration for wanting to become a guitar player and do it professionally?
Man, I swear to God, I feel like I answered this one for you, but in the past before. But so I started playing guitar when I was 13. I got into saxophone the year before that.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah. See, well, refreshing my memory too, and people are kind of just discovering who Toni Aleman is. So we want to tell the story. That's why we're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, right on. So yeah, I got into saxophone in concert band when I was in like middle school.
Okay.
And that just wasn't enough for me. I had always been a big fan of guitar.
Of course, yeah.
So ultimately, I guess when I turned 13, I had been listening to the Ozzy tribute record.
Oh, wow.
Live Randy Rhodes, like performance, like the big one.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was at a buddy's house, and he turned me on to that, and I heard the solo to Crazy Train. And it was like that little tapping thing. And I mean, at that age, it was just kind of like everything was new, and I wasn't really sure what those things were.
You know,
but that sound was just like, what the hell is that? Like I need to know what that is. Like, I need to find out how you make that noise on the guitar. It was a complete curiosity.
Yeah, it's amazing, to me, because when you stop and think, Randy, in the 70s he played in Quiet Riot, but those Quiet Riot albums he played on are really only available in Japan, and but when you think, but really his legacy is those two Ozzy albums. I mean, the guy has a huge fan base that he does, but he's able to create that legacy with just two albums. Really, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, man, it's just it's a little bit of too soon.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of talent. Like the guy was
just think what he would have done, Yeah, and so you said that you were also involved with some of those Randy Rhodes Remembered shows.
Yeah, I got to play. I forgot what year it is now.
Yeah, that's all right. But like, do you remember what songs you played on, or?
I played on Crazy Train.
Of course.
I definitely played on that, and it was a good time. And I know there's a video out there somewhere of that performance. But man, it was myself, Brian Tichy, who's also in the Rock Orchestra. He's Mr. Randy Rhodes Remembered.
Brian Tichy, he's another amazing musician. Not just a lot of people know him as a drummer, but I've interviewed him in the past, and he's a guitar player, a singer. He plays, I think, almost every kind of instrument. I seen him years ago on like that metal show where he actually created this kind of, he calls it a speed bag, where he hits this like little punching bag. Just always, this guy's always thinking. And speaking of Randy Rhodes Remembered, he's the guy behind that. He's the guy behind Bonzo Bash. I mean, he had to leave like the Dead Daisies because all that stuff took up his time. Takes a year to like put all these shows together that he does. Yeah, no,
and dude, like I said, he's one of those guys. He's just scary good at everything.
Yeah.
Like I might as well mention this. Like, we were hanging out at rehearsals for the Rock Orchestra, and like he shows me a guitar lick, and it's a really good lick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
the drummer showing the guitar lick,
And same with like the Randy Rhodes show. Like, I mean, obviously everybody went and did their thing, and everybody on that stage is a phenomenal guitar player.
Of course, yeah.
And here comes the drummer, and he plays a live Randy Rhodes solo. And I was just like blown away. Like, God damn it! Like, that dude's too fucking good. Like, like he's playing drums the whole fucking night, and he sings. I'm sure he produces like virtually everything.
Yeah.
In a recording setting, bass, drums, whatever. But man, he could play guitar, and he could play it really well. Not convincing. He plays it well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So not the same, man. That guy's like his own musical genius.
He's a one-man band. Yeah.
He is, man, and it's scary how good he is. And like music, you know what I mean? Like to that degree, it's just like respectable. And
that's why he gets all these gigs, offers to do all these things. I was curious. They also had this other show out here a couple years back called Ronnie Montrose. Remember? Were you involved with that at all?
No, I didn't do that show, and I don't know who actually runs that.
Well,
show,
actually, it's this guy Keith St. John. He's he's the last singer that played with Ronnie, so he's the one that kind of launched that. But yeah, I love stuff like that. And so, Violet Sin, have you guys had a chance to like do a lot of live shows yet, or is that something you'll be doing more in the future?
It's funny. We got our band together. We do all these like Halloween events and all that stuff. That's kind of how this whole thing's.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, we started playing quite a bit just before this whole COVID thing happened, and then things opened up, and we kind of just put ourselves into this like recording production kind of like mindset. Like I guess something I didn't mention earlier is that our first record featured songs on the Glenn Danzig movie called Veronica. Did you ever check that out?
No, but because you're telling me about this, we're going to have to now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Glenn directed, produced, and filmed his movie, which is called Veronica. It's like a horror film.
Okay.
It's like kind of like Tales of the Crypt. There's a couple different stories in there, and like they were like little one-offs. And so that was released via Cleopatra Entertainment.
Okay.
And so I guess Glenn handpicked, or I guess that's the story. He handpicked. I wasn't there. Mm-hmm. He handpicked a couple songs off of our record. So if you get the soundtrack or if you watch the movie, you'll hear two of our songs.
Oh, that's interesting because Glenn Danzig, he's apparently a huge Elvis fan, and he was also signed to Cleopatra Records. And the last thing he put out that I got, he did this cool like Elvis tribute CD of him doing all these classic Elvis songs, and I tell you, it's just amazing in a word.
Yeah, that's pretty badass, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess the thing with Vinyl Sin is since we are quote unquote a horror band, I guess it only makes sense that we're involved in horror films, and I guess one of the references I was going to make earlier was Dokken. I kind of sort of feel like Vinyl Sin.
Dream Warriors.
Sort of taking after the Dokken thing with horror films and all that, like a rock band, a 4-piece rock band doing scary stuff.
They just did one song. You guys are kind of taking it to the next level, which I think is cool because it really gives you.
Videos, you get murdered and stuff like that.
But it really gives you guys you really got something original and different going, and it's going to really if other bands try to follow in that, you guys are going to be the one that kind of started it all.
Well, we'll see, man. Only time can tell. I just know I'm really happy with that.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tony. I'm gonna grab a copy of that CD, and then down the line, I'd like to interview you again specifically about Vinyl Sin, and we talk more in detail about some of the songs on the record.
Yeah, for sure, man. We'll have to because I think you'll definitely be happy with the guitar work on it. I definitely did the Tony thing on there for sure.
That's great. That's great. Yeah.
So yeah, man. Like it's. I think it's a good band, and it's definitely a good vessel for what I do as a guitar player.
I guess the next
also for good songwriting and things that you could sing along to as opposed to prog or all the.
I can't sing. Before Vinyl Sin, I guess. Like the closest any rock band really got to Halloween would be either what I grew up on would be Kiss or Alice Cooper would probably be the first,
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, because Alice Cooper is really the guy that started that whole thing all. Like
Welcome to My Nightmare. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The guy was just doing stuff that pissed a lot of people off at that time. And that's the thing. It's like the time period of like the early 70s.
Yeah, I tell you, if you're an Alice fan... If you're an Alice fan, I got this great DVD. I know you can get it on Amazon. It's called Alice Cooper, The Nightmare. It's this thing they had on TV from 1975 when he was doing Welcome to My Nightmare. But man, it's kind of that brought to life. It's just like nothing I'd ever seen before.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. Like it's kind of weird how you end up getting in all these things. Like for me, like thinking about like 2017. I just randomly joined this band. Just like I said, I knew the bass player. I know him well enough to where if he gives me a call, I'd be happy to do whatever he's doing. You know what I mean? It just so happened to be that project, and it just so happened to be still working on the record, and to fast forward 3-4 years at this point almost.
Oh wow! How cool
I'm really happy with everything we've done. All these different music videos. I think we have 3 or 4 of them out.
Okay, yeah. That's
an acoustic video, which is coming out soon.
Okay, well, we'll continue to follow that. Vinyl Sin, you guys have a Facebook page or any official site you want to let the folks know about?
Yeah, there's the Facebook Vinyl Sin page. There's the Instagram page. There's definitely the Vinyl Sin Bandcamp, which is actually where we are actually doing signed albums, records, because we actually sell vinyls. We sell the CD and the MP3s and all that. But you can get a lot of cool exclusive Vinyl Sin stuff on Bandcamp.
And it sounds like you're involved in a lot of great projects here, Tony. But I was curious, have you ever had any desire to do like a Toni Aleman guitar shredder like type solo album, or even just an instrumental thing, or are you pretty cool? Like you're more of a band guy?
I actually have been working on a record. I feel really bad about even talking about it at this point.
I hear you. Yeah.
It's been like 8 years in the works.
Kind of it's on the back burner because you get all these great offers. It's like
yeah, because I end up playing guitar for everybody else, and I'm like, fuck, I don't play guitar enough for myself.
Well, and the thing with that is, like anybody, you got to pay the bill. So it's like, well, this one pays better, so I got to do this first. But
and that's true. That's a part of it. The other side of it is like So doing my own record has been a little bit of a tall order because number one, I want to engineer, produce, record, mix, and all that
and
stuff.
have you thought in regards to doing your own record, like, would you want to play everything? Would you want to have guest musicians? Would you want to have other guys come in and play on it?
Well, so far the material that has been recorded, which is about like 80% of everything at this point, like I have music that I quantized and digitally created myself.
Oh, amazing! That's cool too.
I arrange and do that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But I also actually had a couple guys play on it as well. I won't mention who or what because
we'll save that for a later date.
At the time.
Yeah. I hear you.
But no, I studied orchestration and arranging when I was in college, and I got into like drum programming, and obviously like I learned all this mixing and mastering and all that kind of stuff. It's taken time, like obviously working on other people's records to know what works and what doesn't. And then once you accumulate your tricks, you kind of put them together and do your own thing.
Yeah.
I did it the long way, which is probably a stupid thing to do. But also I want to make sure that everything sounds right, because I've noticed that now that things have changed so much with the digital audio recording world, like you don't need $1 million studio anymore. You don't need Capitol Records Studio One.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to have those things, and I like obviously there's a result for that. But man, there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of records being recorded right now.
And the beautiful part about that is you can do it at home. You can do it on your own schedule. You don't have to have a budget necessarily. You don't, you know, and then the best part is if you release it yourself, you know, all the money goes back into your pocket as opposed to, you know, a record company getting the bulk of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the other side too, where like you create the record and then you trade off the publishing for the record, so that you know, obviously a record company or any distributor can take a portion of the proceeds for making your record, obviously,
of course,
for putting it out.
Yeah.
So that way they have an incentive to place your record, so that you have an incentive to make money on the record as well.
That's why, like, you know, Juan, who we were talking about earlier, I'm sure that's how he's able to afford what he does now, because he's got all those royalties, all those great hit songs he was a part of, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, dude. Like that rat check, I'm sure has got to be a nice one. I can't imagine it's not.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's what they were all fighting over the last couple of years. But hey, more power to them, you know.
Yeah, no, man. See, I'm still on the side that to me, Rat is still like Juan, Warren. Bob.
And I got to tell you, I think it ended up in the right hands. I mean, I think the sad state of affairs. Things ended the way they should, in the sense that it's kind of almost comical that if Bobby wouldn't have sued those other guys, him and Warren might have ended up with the name. I understand from Bobby suing Juan, they discovered that it was actually the original agreement that was still in effect, not the one they thought.
Yeah, as they say, man, that's all news now. You can find that LA Times report.
Yeah.
You know, I just will say, man, like I'm just a fan of that band.
I hear you.
As it was, you know, and it's hard to see other renditions of it. Although, you know, it's cool to play in that. You know, obviously, if you got that gig, good for you.
Yeah.
But I will say I'm still a true fan of that band.
I'm glad to hear that. But and then you got a chance to play those songs that you were a fan of. That had to be kind of a cool feeling, and that's why I still think with what's going on with Rat. Because I've heard Steven going out there saying that he wants to do one more Rat album, kind of go out on top, but if other guys don't want to do it. Then that's to me why there's still, I think, a great chance of maybe you and Juan doing that, finishing that record you've been working on.
Yeah, who knows? Well, I mean, with Juan, it's just a matter of, I think, it's just got to be right timing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it seems like every time we have that conversation, like, obviously they have to go out on the road.
Of course, You got
to do your thing, man, and it is what it is. And same with Pete. I'm sure that if it's meant to be, it'll happen. If not, no big deal. I'm still putting music out there. I'm still working with people. And luckily, I still have great relationships with everybody I work, so I can work with. So.
Well, I would imagine you seem like a super nice guy. So, you know, if that's the case, then, you know, also, you know, you don't just get gigs because you're super talented shredders, because, you know, you're a good guy to work with, or, you know, you get a reputation after, you know, doing a few of these projects.
Yeah, I would hope so, man. I hope, like, behind the scenes, it's not like a whole, like, hey, fuck.
Because I will tell you,
Tony, dude.
I'll let you know when I post Gregg Foxx's interview that I did with him in a couple weeks, because he mentioned you during the interview, and he was saying both you and Christian, like, what super talents you guys are as far as guitar players. Like each guy kind of brings something to the table. But he was just saying everybody involved in the rock orchestra that what amazing talent they are.
Yes, dude. Everybody in that band, like aside from me, I could be like, yeah,
but like he was even telling me, like he's like, no, but he's saying everybody, but he was just telling me, like he mentioned Tony is solo on Circus Life, which is obvious, but he was saying Brian Tichy and all Mark Bowles, like you said, and he was telling me you guys even had a violin player or two, I think, and that to me is unique. You know, you don't hear too many violin in rock music.
Oh no, like there is the violin aspect. I mean, we actually did another performance, which was not a public thing. It was more like a closed doors.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
I don't know what you would call that. I guess a showcase.
Corporate show or showcase, yeah.
And in that particular setup, there was many more violinists in that situation, and I think it's kind of 50-50. It's the big rock show.
Yeah.
Representation, which is what we just got done doing, but I think he also has the idea to have a full and like I said, who knows? Obviously,
that's kind of what he telling me. He said, it's going to be like ever kind of changing. Yeah. Well, Tony, thanks for taking time to talk to me again. I had a blast talking to you, and we'll have to do it again down the line. Like we said, talk more in detail about Vial of Sin, but. This interview will probably be going up in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I'll let you know the minute it does. And at that point, if you'd like to post on any of your sites, feel free to do so. So let's keep in touch, Tony, and have a great rest of the day.
Right on. Have a good one. And thank you for having me on.
Anytime, my friend. Let's keep in touch, okay?
All right, dude.
Take care.